Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 26 series, Rescue the Rockies. And we are just past the All-Star break. We've got about 2 weeks left with this strong Rockies team before we get to the trade deadline. 59-38 record, 3.5 games up on the pesky Padres in the National League West this year. Have made one relatively minor trade ahead of the trade deadline. Brought on the veteran shortstop Eleniker Coronado. We're calling him a shortstop. We're actually having him learn how to play shortstop at the major league level, at least fully play shortstop at the major league level. And you can see in his first 2 games with us, hasn't gone particularly well. He's made a couple of errors, has a fielding percentage and defensive efficiency of both just over 800. So he has been brutal defensively so far. Hopefully, we can get him over the coming weeks and months to be an at least proficient defensive shortstop. Do think his bat against right-handed pitching is definitely an upgrade for us, but not a long-term answer as a soon-to-be 32-year-old who's wrecked physically and set to become a free agent after this season. But hopefully, as a rental, he'll make us a little better over these next few months. So we're going to continue to keep an eye on the trade deadline and who's available in the market. Maybe make another move or two. Would think that infield and outfield would be the most likely areas where we might look for some help. We do have 13 games left until the until the trade deadline. We're past the All-Star break now. Really weird schedule for us. We flew to New York from Colorado for 3 games after the All-Star break. Tonight we're flying home for 3 at home in Colorado against Atlanta. And then Friday, or more accurately Thursday night into Friday, we fly halfway across the country back to Chicago for 3 games there before we fly back home to finish up the month against against St. Louis in Miami. So a rough schedule as far as the travel for us coming out of this All-Star break. And in an extremely rare occurrence, based on my experience in OOTP, we made a contract offer to Bernie Barrera to bring him on board and extend him. Talked about this in the last episode, and 99+% of the time, at least based on my experience, if people go and think about an offer like that, they will accept it. But in this situation, the numbers weren't good enough for Bernie Barrera to consider an extension with us. Mentioned that he had been looking for 6 years at about $14.5 million a year with a team option for the final season originally. I offered him 3 years, $39 million with no player or team options. Actually, it was a player option for the final year of that 6-year deal. He is willing to do 3 years at not dissimilar money from what we offered him before, 14.3 million versus 13. He does seem insistent on that player option for the final season, given that it's an age 30 season for him, and he is an Iron Man. I'm not particularly worried that he's going to suffer some devastating injury that's going to ruin his career between now and then. And even then, if he signs up for one additional year for us that we don't really want, it's probably not the end of the world. And we'll try to give Barrera the optionality he's been looking for, which has been a player option in the last year of the contract, whether that was a 6-year deal as he was originally asking for, a 5-year deal, which he came down to eventually in some of our previous negotiations, or a 3-year deal now. But we're going to keep the money the same as what we were offering, an average of $13 million a year for the next 3 years, but give him the opportunity to opt out as a 30-year-old. And apparently he really wants the more money. So I think it's worth trying to bring him on board. As we talked about, we do have a situation where Noah Schultz, who's been a longtime starter for us, is injured for this year, and we're unlikely to re-sign him at big money in his mid-30s, given that he's fragile physically. Barrera, not a superstar, but he's been very effective for us over the years and would be a nice kind of third or fourth starter to have locked in for the next couple seasons as we try to remain competitive with these Rockies, averaging 13.5 million a year now over those 3 years. And now his demand just keeps going up. So he's pretty insistent that he wants to make a certain amount of money. We'll see if 14 will do it. His negotiation mood isn't getting worse, but he just keeps asking for more money. Willing to consider 42 million a year over 3 years with a player option for that final season. So we'll submit the offer to Barrera and find out what happens. And our Rockies have not been great coming out of the All-Star break. Lost the final game against the Mets to drop that series. Lost 2 out of 3 at home against Atlanta. And we've dropped one of the first 2 in Chicago. So that means we're only half a game up on the Padres at this point in the division. The Braves continue to be ahead of us for the best record in baseball, and the Astros have now tied them at 63 and 41. So certainly still could use a boost to this lineup in this roster with a week left before the trade deadline. Just don't know that there's anything for us to do. All of our ACL team coaches just retired. Manager Dave Sisla, hitting coach Lionel Hastings, and pitching coach T.T. Gallagher all retired. So we're going to have some big moves to make there this offseason. Talked about the extension offer we made to Bernie Barrera, the veteran reliever. Justin Gibson also headed to free agency again. He's now 32 years old. We're not using him as extensively as we have in the past with some of the better youngsters in our bullpen. And he's looking for $16 million a year over 3 years. We paid him $15 million this year, $15 million last year also in a contract extension that was a bit front-loaded when we signed him to it. Honestly, $16 million a year, we could certainly probably get him for a little less than that. Doesn't seem like something that I'm going to jump at this point, given that, as you can see, he's pitched just 29 and a third innings for us this year. Not because he's been injured, but just because we felt like at this point there's better options than him out of the pen, even though he is an extremely accomplished pitcher, 4-time All-Star, and the Mariano Rivera Award winner just a couple years ago. And we did win the final game of the series against the Cubs, which was positive, pushing our record to 62 and 42, back to 20 games above 500. Infielder Travis Ramstad now dealing with wrist soreness, hopefully only a 1-week issue for him. With the fact that we do have Coronado on board, we've probably got enough guys at the major league level to get through this upcoming week. But certainly if we were to suffer another injury in the near term, that could accelerate the need for us to do something else in the infield. Coronado being wrecked and Mahez being fragile, and both of them being on the wrong side of 30 probably doesn't help us either. And with our enhanced deal to Bernie Barrera, did get him signed, gave him an extra $1 million a year, so $14 million a year for the next 3 years. And he's also got the option to opt out for that final third season. So really only a guarantee that it's a 2-year extension for us at $14 million for both 2040 and 2041 for Barrera to likely remain our number 3 starter. 9 and 4 this year with a 3.13 ERA. Definitely feel like he is a very strong guy to have in that type of third or fourth starter role behind the likes of Martinez and Russell, particularly with some of the other good young talent we have coming up through the organization that's not too far away. Didn't necessarily want to make a long-term commitment to him, but as a bridge guy for our rotation for the next few years, think he can certainly continue to add a lot of value for us. Uh, Small increase in fan interest. We had actually dipped down to 99, so I'm wondering if that'll push us back up to 100. And such a small impact that unfortunately nothing optically to see there, as we've lost a little bit of fan interest this year despite remaining a very competitive team on the field. And the good news is we swept our series against St. Louis, won all three games at home. So our lead on the Padres is back to 3.5. As we've been playing a bit better and they've been playing a bit worse. Negatively, and I guess it's a positive since it's happening right before the trade deadline, another injury. This one not critical yet, but our number two starter, Bob Russell, went just 8 pitches in the win today, out for a week with a dead arm. I think we'll probably be extremely cautious with him and put him on the IL. Pretty confident that this team is going to end up in the playoffs again, hopefully as a division winner, even though our prospect of having home field advantage throughout the playoffs seems to be a bit lower this year than in some previous seasons. And we did decide to put Russell on the IL, even though he's supposed to only be out for a week. That'll give him 2 weeks off. Don't want to push things at all with him, given that we are more focused on hopefully ensuring we're healthy for October than late July and early August. Danny Dominguez, who's been a long reliever for us this year, did start one game for us, 2-1 with a 3.54 ERA. He would probably, in most cases, be a logical player to move into the rotation, although his stamina indicates he's more of a 5 inning type starter. But I mentioned that we do have some big prospects on the way to supplement our rotation, and we're going to give one of them a shot. The lefty Mike Witherspoon, 22-year-old first round pick for us 5 years ago out of Space Coast High School, a first round high school pitcher who's worked out thus far reasonably well for us. Number 46 prospect in baseball. He was 11-4 with an ERA of just over 4 at AAA Albuquerque for us, striking out almost a batter an inning for us with a 3.5 WAR. Almost 23 years old, not really too much left to prove for him. Like the personality, the stamina. Witherspoon also good at holding on runners. Has a 5 pitch arsenal. Not any of those pitches look like they're going to be incredible, but does certainly look like he can be a good, solid major leaguer for us. So we're going to give him the opportunity to be our fifth starter, at least for the next couple of weeks while Russell's hopefully healing up. And we're officially closing in now on the trade deadline. The pickings are getting a little more slim. A couple of expensive players that we probably couldn't really pull something off for, but that we were admittedly interested in are now off the market. The infielder Jason House went to the Minnesota Twins. He's a guy who we've been looking at for many years as the Cubs gave up on him, but a interesting two-way player. And then the very high-end reliever also traded away, Suguno Shimada, also known as Megavolt, now a member of the Houston Astros after, for him, not the most productive season this year in Cincinnati, but still certainly has a profile to be a big-time major league reliever. Taking a look at this point at the rest of what's available on the trading block, you can see the pitchers with Shimada gone are a relatively motley crew of older and injury-prone and or currently injured pitchers. So given that we do like our rotation a lot, don't know that there's necessarily much that we would do there. Position player wise, there's certainly bats that could help us. The likes of Josh Miller and Edo Cohen could both be nice assets to get another lefty bat for us, but probably not critical with the fact that we did make the trade for the lefty hitting shortstop Coronado, even though he's not at the same level as those guys. Some of the more interesting infielders, DePaula and Made, remain hurt. Our former shortstop, who we lost in the expansion draft, Elian Pena, now with the Red Sox, they're looking to trade him. He certainly could help upgrade our defense. He would definitely take over as our lefty hitting shortstop against right-handed pitching, even with Coronado on the team, just driven by his defense. One other guy who's available that I thought would be worth mentioning at this point, I haven't talked about him in a season or two at this point, but our old buddy Gus Nieves, the Cuban free agent who had a great 7-year run with us, and we let him pass as a free agent several years ago. Pex Nieves now with the Mariners organization. He's hitting just 216 with 4 home runs and 139 at-bats. The 38-year-old has always been a little prickly in the clubhouse, never great defensively, and the bat certainly not special at this point. So definitely seems that although we had a great 7-year run with Nieves through his age 33 season, we got out from him at just about the right time. He was basically a league average player in his 4 seasons in San Diego, but he was declining every year, at least if we look at his OPS plus and his WRC plus, and that decline has continued this year in Seattle. And unfortunately, it's feeling like there might not be anything we can realistically do ahead of this trade deadline on top of the trade for Coronado. Explored reuniting with Pena with the Red Sox, but as you can see, they would only trade him away for one of the premier members of our organization or the younger Derby Majes, who I don't know why we would make that trade, although Majes is potentially headed for free agency and another guy that we need to think about. He's younger than Pena, but he is very good defensively, good in the clubhouse, great speed. Pena older, although looks like I believe he used to be fragile in terms of his injury proneness, so looks like he's gotten stronger since he went away from us. Also good speed, also good defensively. But there's no way, I don't think, that we would look to re-sign Pena this offseason, whereas I think there's still a scenario where we do look to re-sign Majes. Right now, Majes looking for almost $10 million a year for 5 years, which, given that he's not currently an everyday player for us right now, even though he has been most of his career and at times even this season, the offense is just so brutal, despite his good influence in the clubhouse, his wizardry on the base paths, and his excellent glove, that I don't think we need to rush to get him signed right now. Wait to see a few more cards over the next couple months. Wait to see what the prospective free agent pool looks like. Wait to see how some of the younger players in our organization develop, and then maybe make a decision on Majes then, but want to at least retain that control. So I wouldn't trade him for Elian Pena either. The prices for some of the even higher end guys like Josh Miller and Edo Cohen are even more expensive. Don't really see that there's anything for us to do with the pitchers. So unless we happen to have another major injury over the next day until the trade deadline, probably going to be a relatively quiet one for our Rockies, unfortunately. And of course, with the trade deadline officially locked and passed, even though we haven't moved to August 1st quite yet, we find out that Anthony Pack Jr. back strain that's going to keep him out for a week. We'll put him on the IL just to be careful. Again, for those top-end outfielders that were out there, the prices were just ridiculous, but certainly would have considered a ridiculous price slightly more than in the past if I had been able to look at the opportunities, knowing that Pack Jr. was injured. But given that it's only a 1-week injury, hopefully, and we're going to be conservative with him, put him on the IL for the next 10 days, hopefully it's not decision that we regret not bringing another outfielder on board. And with Pack going on the IL, we fortunately had a little more depth in our outfield over the last month. That's because Chris Roy, who's been kind of a 4A guy for us for a number of years, we lost him in the Rule 5 draft last year to the expansion Salt Lake Trappers. They returned him to us about a month ago, so he had been sitting in AAA for us. Hit 296 in 186 major league at bats for Salt Lake City with a 128 WRC plus. So don't really understand how an expansion team that is 50 and 60 found that so unacceptable that they sent him back to us. But we'll take it. Roy Lil D back with the team will be our DH against both righties and lefties. He'll take over for Eric Mokeen against lefties, so he's going to get some everyday action for the next week and a half or so while Pack Jr. is hurt. That'll force us to move Mike Castro into center fielder every day over the next week and a half or so, and move Mokeen from DH to left field against right-handed pitching. So the defense a little bit weaker, but Lil D back with us at least for a little while, although he is out of options. So we'll need to get him through waivers next month to get him back to AAA once Mr. Pack Jr. is healthy. And we've officially made it to the month of August now. Definitely more of a battle than we're used to, with only a 2.5 game lead over the Padres for the division. And at 66 and 44, we're a game and a half behind the Braves for the best record in the National League and the best record in baseball. So have not been as dominant this year as we perhaps have been in some previous seasons. Johnny Castillo, the second baseman, continues to have an excellent year, second in the league in ribbies with 2 months to go. Anthony Pack Jr., second in the league in steals, although as we just talked about, he's on the IL for the next week and a half or so. Mike Castro, third in the league in batter war. And Leo Martinez, our ace, tied for the league lead with 12 wins. So certainly have the opportunity for some individual accolades this year, but the goal, of course, is to get this Rockies team back into the World Series. And before we finish up this rather brief episode, we'll take a quick look at our farm system, ranks first overall. Won't do the full deep dive that we typically do at the end of the season when we know everything, but figured I'd give you a little preview of the 9 top 100 prospects in our organization. Unfortunately, our top prospect, Carlos Bear Barrel Davila, has been suffering from post-concussion syndrome since late in spring training. Going to be an entirely wasted year for him. He made his debut in AAA late last year. Certainly would have been fighting for a spot on the Major League roster this year. Seeing what he looks like on the other side of that injury probably could influence our decision as far as Derby Mahez. Unfortunately, with 5 months left to recover, we're probably not going to have full information on Bear Barrel before we need to decide what to do with Mahez this offseason. 20-year-old third baseman Nils Mensch is basically a third baseman just because he's learning to learn that position down there, but the number 18 prospect in baseball can play just about anywhere in the infield at a acceptable, albeit not great level. Spent the entire year so far in High A Spokane, hitting 266 with 12 homers, 55 ribbies, put up a 128 WRC plus. May look to promote him to Double A before the end of the year, but again, at only 20 years old, if he's not quite ready, not really any need to rush him. Ezekiel Caban, second round pick of ours a year ago, now considered the number 36 prospect in baseball. Started out the year in rookie ball. We've since moved him up to A ball, where he's 8-0 with a 2.38 earned run average. Caban does not necessarily look like he's going to be an ace at the major league level, but certainly looks like he's got potential to be a good solid starter if he continues to develop. Not quite ready for the Northwest League, but it's also not inconceivable that we do promote him up to a third level this season before we get to the end of the year. Already talked briefly about Mike Witherspoon. He's still waiting to make his first major league start for us since he's our number 5 starter now, but will be well rested when that does ultimately happen. Alex Gamez out with a relatively minor injury at this point. The former second round pick, the number 55 prospect in baseball. He's been a monster in high A this year, hitting .393 with 11 homers and 49 ribbies, 267 at bats. You can see his WRC is over 200, which is ridiculous. He looks like he can handle his own at the Eastern League at this point, almost 22 years old. So when he's back from that injury, probably will promote the young infielder up to Double A. We've been playing him at first base just to make him as versatile as possible as a potential infielder going forward. Starting pitcher Orlando Preziato, the number 63 prospect in baseball, a scouting discovery from 3 years ago, went 8-0 with our ACL team. We moved him back to the DSL a couple weeks ago as that ACL season was winding down. 20 years old now. Once the DSL season is over, we'll likely be promoting him up to Class A in the California League to see what he can do for us at that level. Guy who looks like he could be a good, solid back of the rotation starter if he reaches his full potential, but probably not a star prospect at this point. John Jefferson, an 8th round pick from 2035. I've gotten lucky with him. He's become the number 77 prospect in baseball, hitting .299 in Double A this year, 132 WRC plus. Turned 22 years old a couple of months ago. Looks like he could be a useful major league infielder. Not great defensively, but still think that he could ultimately have a plus bat. Fragile physically. Looks like he could certainly hold his own in AAA. We may look to promote him today. Typically August 1st, when we get past the trade deadline, is a day where I'll spend a little more time offline going through the minor league system and making some decisions, and certainly would expect that we'll be promoting Jefferson to AAA before the end of the day. Right fielder Gustavo Esqueda, IAFA signing from us 2.5 years ago in early 2037, number 88 prospect in baseball. Spent most of the year for us with our ACL team where he hit .318, hitting .317 in rookie ball this year. Only 19 years old, so no rush to promote him up to A ball. Looks like he still would probably struggle there a bit, so tend to think that we'll probably keep him in the DSL for the rest of this year, probably start him in the ACL next year, and then likely promote him up to Class A about a year from now. Final top 100 prospect in our organization is last year's first round pick, Justin Denmark Morgan. 9-2 with a 2.12 ERA for us in Double A. Another guy who looks like more of a back of the rotation guy for a really good team than a star. If that changeup develops, though, certainly looks like he could be in the majors in the not too distant future. Another guy who probably will be promoted to the PCL to the end of this year. Doesn't necessarily look quite, ready to dominate at that level. And his relationships with the coaches are a little better here in Double A, which is why we've kept him down a bit, even though with a combined 13-2 record over 20 starts in Double A over the last season, he doesn't have much, if anything, left to prove at that level. So probably will be also headed up to AAA either today or in the not too distant future. But feeling reasonably good about our Rockies at this point, both in terms of our minor league system as well as how we're doing in the majors. Not the most exciting trade deadline for us, but we'll see if we can remain healthy, hold on to the division, and hopefully give the Braves and the Astros and the Orioles and the Cardinals and I guess the Padres a run for the best record in baseball over the final 2 months of the season. And we'll find out how we do on that quest in our next episode. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.